On July 1st, something entered our solar system. A glimmer in the darkness, moving too fast, too clean. Astronomers called it 3E Atlas, just another interstellar comet. But then it changed course. It accelerated, it pulsed. Every 17 minutes it breathes, as if alive. And now, new data reveals something horrifying. It may be steering directly toward Mars. Harvard physicists, NASA engineers, and deep space radar specialists are all saying the same thing. This is not natural. Is it a rogue machine from beyond the stars? Or something far more intelligent? Whatever it is, it's getting closer, and we only have until September to find out. On a quiet night in early July, astronomers scanning the sky noticed a faint, fast-moving object slicing through the darkness beyond Pluto's orbit. It was catalogued like thousands before it, an icy traveler from deep space, most likely a harmless comet drifting on a hyperbolic arc. They called it 3I Atlas. The name meant nothing then. Just another interstellar interloper passing through, destined to glance past Mars and disappear into the void forever. No one paid it much attention. After all, comets come and go. But this one didn't follow the rules. Within days, calculations began to shift. Its trajectory, once stable, was now changing. Not wildly, but subtly, just enough to raise eyebrows. First at Harvard, then at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. What they noticed wasn't just a shift. It was a pattern. The object wasn't drifting. It was adjusting. It was correcting. Like something aware of its own path. And worse, that path was tightening around one specific target. Mars. Still, many dismissed the concerns. Maybe gravitational tugs from the Sun or Jupiter were stronger than expected. Maybe it was just outgassing, the usual ice sublimation pushing it slightly off course. But then a new data set came in, and the numbers broke the model, because this wasn't some tumbling rock reacting to physics. This was something else, something faster, something deliberate. As astronomers double-checked the trajectory, they realized 3 Atlas wasn't just passing through. It was diving toward the red planet, and not like a comet, like a missile. And that's when the real fear began to spread. By mid-August, the data could no longer be ignored. The object's speed had surpassed every known interstellar visitor. 3 Atlas was now tearing through space at a staggering 87 kilometers per second, not relative to Mars or Earth, but to the Sun itself. That kind of velocity isn't just fast, it's unnatural. Objects moving that fast don't steer. They don't curve. They don't slow. But this one was doing all three. At first, scientists thought it might be a calculation error. Maybe their instruments were out of sync. Maybe the gravitational modeling was incomplete. But every recalculation came back with the same terrifying conclusion. 3 Atlas wasn't being pulled. It was aiming. The trajectory was too tight, the changes too specific. Each day its path bent slightly, not randomly, but precisely, like a pilot making course corrections, steering through the gravity wells of planets like slingshot checkpoints. Even the tiniest nudge, a few micrometers per second, seemed to build over distance, curving its orbit like thread, winding through a needle. New simulations showed something even worse. If 3 Atlas gained just 10 more kilometers per second, to a fraction of the velocity used to launch a SpaceX Starship, it could tip its orbit into a direct collision with Mars. No comet had ever been observed doing anything like this. It wasn't falling. It was navigating, and the question hanging over every mission control center was simple and terrifying. How much time do we have before it stops correcting and starts descending? It began with a flicker, then a pulse. At first, astronomers assumed it was noise, background radiation, solar interference, a glitch in the equipment. But the signal repeated. Then it repeated again. Every 17 minutes on the dot, 3 Atlas emitted a burst of gas from its tail. Not a chaotic plume like a melting comet, but a precise, rhythmic pulse. The timing was eerie, like the beat of a clock. Or the breath of a machine. Natural comets don't do this. Their jets erupt randomly as sunlight heats surface ice, carving out chaotic patterns with no rhythm, no predictability. But this was different. The pulses were mechanical, coordinated, metronomic, and each one subtly altered the object's course, as if it were using its own exhaust as thrust. just like a spacecraft. Spectral data from Gemini South Observatory in Chile confirmed the abnormality. The ultraviolet spikes were too sharp, too high energy. The composition of the gas didn't match any known comet. And then came the radar echoes. Bounced off the object's core by Goldstone's massive antenna array, the results came back hard, metallic. Not porous ice, not soft dust. Something solid. Something engineered. That's when Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb and his student Adam Hibberd released a controversial hypothesis. 3 Atlas might not be a comet at all. It could be a probe, launched by an ancient, distant civilization. Not drifting randomly but navigating, controlled, steered, and what was its destination? Mars, just as astronomers began to accept that 3 Atlas might not be natural. Something else appeared. High above the thin Martian atmosphere, the European Space Agency's Mars Express orbiter captured 3 faint flashes, tiny glints of reflected sunlight against the black. At first, Mission Control dismissed them, probably cosmic rays, maybe camera artifacts. But then the glints reappeared, in the exact same locations, 3 times, 3 orbits, perfectly aligned. This time no one laughed. Each object hovered in triangular formation, high above Mars' equator. Not tumbling debris. Not satellites. These points were silent, still watching. ESA scientists quietly flagged the footage. Back at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, archival data from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter was pulled. More images surfaced, some from months ago, showing the same mysterious reflections. They had been there all along, hiding in plain sight. Speculation spread like wildfire. Were these just reflections from Mars's surface? Or were they probes, ejected by 3I Atlas during a previous pass through the solar system? Could they be waiting, dormant, for a signal? And if they were machines, they weren't random. Their symmetry, their orbital path, all suggested design. Perhaps they were sent ahead to monitor the planet, or perhaps to receive something coming in fast. Now scientists are racing to determine what these glints truly are. But with each day, 3 Atlas draws closer, and if those objects are scouts, then the mothership is just behind. Behind closed doors, the silence was breaking. Inside space agencies around the world, whispers turned to warnings and warnings turned to action. Quietly, secretly, without press releases or press conferences. The public still believed 3 Atlas was a comet, but behind the scenes, plans were changing. At NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, new protocols were issued. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, once used solely for imaging and climate mapping, was retasked. Engineers quietly uploaded new commands, converting it into a forward radar station, locked onto the interstellar object's inbound vector. The mission was no longer scientific. It was defensive. Across the globe, ESA recalibrated its deep space network. In California, the massive Goldstone antennas began bouncing radar off 3 Atlas's core, a technique used to map asteroids. But what came back stunned even the most seasoned analysts. Instead of soft echoes like ice or rock, the radar returned signals sharp, dense, metallic, like striking a steel drum buried beneath layers of frost. One engineer reportedly said, "It's the strangest echo we've ever recorded." At the same time, images from amateur astronomers began flooding online. In high-exposure photos, 3I Atlas's tail wasn't a single glowing arc. It was splitting. 3 beams of green light, needle-thin, pulsed from its tail, always pointing in the same direction, always toward Mars, and their rhythm matched the 17-minute propulsion pulses. The object wasn't just approaching, it was tracking, and whatever it is, see, it's aligning itself like a missile locking onto its final target. Impact scenarios had always been theoretical. The stuff of dusty textbooks and planetary defense workshops no one took seriously. But now those scenarios were unfolding in real time. NASA's Near-Earth Object Division ran the numbers again and again. Every model echoed the same terrifying truth. If 3I Atlas were to strike Mars, even at a shallow angle, the results would be catastrophic. The object is estimated to weigh 10 billion tons, with a metallic core nearly 400 meters wide. At its current speed, nearly 57 kilometers per second relative to Mars, the kinetic energy of impact would equal 2 million megatons of TNT. That's not a typo. That's over 2,000 times the power of the largest nuclear bomb humanity has ever detonated. The crater would span 60 kilometers across, tearing into the Martian crust like a scalpel through flesh. The blast would vaporize everything in a multi-kilometer radius, landers, orbiters, even the Perseverance rover itself. Dust and debris would be thrown into high orbit. And that's not the worst part. Some fragments, depending on trajectory, could escape Mars's gravity entirely. Computer models began running grim possibilities. What if those fragments carried more than just dust? What if the core of 3 Atlas harbored engineered microbes? Or self-replicating nanotechnology? Containment would be impossible. Some simulations showed debris reaching Earth's orbital neighborhood in under a decade. This wouldn't just be an impact. It could be an interplanetary infection, and every second that passed brought it closer. September has always felt like a month of transitions, of endings and beginnings. But this September it may mark something unprecedented in human history. Contact. From September 19th to the 30th, 3 Atlas enters its critical maneuvering window. During this time, if its 17-minute gas pulses continue, it could adjust its trajectory just enough to lower its closest approach to within 50,000 kilometers of Mars. That's closer than Phobos, the Martian moon. At that distance, Mars' own gravity could pull it into a terminal descent, no longer a flyby, but a guided crash. No comet has ever behaved like this. No natural object has ever pulsed like a machine, accelerated with precision, or maintained a navigational rhythm across millions of kilometers. And yet 3A Atlas does all of this, without hesitation, without pause. The Hubble Space Telescope is now locked onto it. So is JWST and nearly every major observatory on Earth. But even with all eyes on the sky, we still don't understand what we're seeing. We only know what it's not. It's not drifting, it's not random, and it's not silent, because every pulse, every shift, every beam of green light feels like a message, not spoken in words but in actions. A kind of cosmic semaphore, a probe, a test, or worse, a signal sent not to us, but to something already waiting on Mars. The countdown has begun, and the final answer may arrive in silence, fire, and dust. Above the red dust of Mars, something pulses, green, measured, alive. It could be a comet, or it could be a machine older than civilization, threading the eye of a cosmic needle. Harvard scientists are warning. NASA is watching, and every hour 3 Atlas adjusts its path, meter by meter. If it strikes, it will change history. If it misses, it might come again, but either way, one truth remains. Something from beyond our star is here, and it is not behaving like a rock. So, was this a coincidence? A cosmic missile? Or the first handshake from something we've never met? What do you think is really behind 3 Atlas? Machine, comet, or something worse?